Hi, how you doing? And welcome back to another video on the channel. So it is a final decisions video leading into the Game Week 8 deadline. And I wouldn't normally put a video out like this, but because there's been an international break and a couple of weeks between game weeks, I just wanted to put out my final thoughts regarding captaincy and my own team selection for those of you that are interested. It might help your thoughts in a bit of a shorter video here. As much as I would like to, I'd also like to go in again to how I scored 103 points in game week 7. Just shout out for that. But if you want to see that sort of video and me explaining that, the link will be in the description and also in my recent video playlist. So let's take a look at captaincy, and fixtures are pretty interesting this game week. There's not been too much fluctuation in the captaincy predicted points. Haaland has got a little bit more, a zero point 0.1 more expected points than he did about a week ago for what it's worth, and I'll be captaining him. There's no reason not to. Everton at home is an okay fixture, and Everton are either going to come and, defend like they usually used to, or they're going to come and try and play a little bit and leave some space in behind for Haaland. Without Jack Grealish for Everton, I think he does have a lot of their creative spark. So there's no Jack Grealish because he's playing his parent club in Man City, so he's not allowed to play. So I think that just weakens Everton a little bit as well, and just gives Haaland that bit extra, you know, oomph to sort of captain and get those points. He did return early from international duty with Norway as well, not because he's injured, but just because both club and country wanted him to get a bit of a rest, which can only benefit him as well. So outside of Haaland, you can absolutely captain Salah. I do like that Man United game at home for Liverpool, and I think it's one that can just fly up a number of goals at any given point. So Salah, if you don't own Haaland, is great. And then outside of that, I'm not a huge fan of any of these other players. I think Mateta at home to Bournemouth is okay. Bournemouth are playing well, and then Semenyo away at Palace, I don't really like. I think, yeah, Semenyo plays a bit better on the break and can get those goals, but Crystal Palace is a really difficult place to go. So by all means, if you own Semenyo, start him. I wouldn't be captaining him. I actually think as a vice captain, I'll probably do that with João Pedro. Again, someone who's not gone on international duty, got a bit of a rest, and even though it's a 12:30 kickoff, Nottingham Forest just aren't great, and they've got defensive injuries as well. João Pedro hasn't been getting the returns of late, so there is a chance that he gets a couple here, with Chelsea being on the attack and wanting to make a good start to this sort of section of league fixtures in between international breaks. So in terms of my team, in goal, I'm going to start Riot. There's absolutely no need not to. I think if you were looking to get Riot in on a free transfer, I would maybe look elsewhere for Arsenal at the moment, given that he's now 5.7 and players like Calafiori are the same. But because I've got Calafiori as well and already got Riot, there's no need to bench him. He's not been getting as many saves as I would like, and therefore not getting the save points, but he has been getting the clean sheets, and I think he's an absolute must start for my team here. It does also mean that I'm starting the triple Arsenal defence this game week. Again, there's no need not to. I think Fulham away is not the worst fixture in the world. Whilst it's an away game, it's still in London, so it's not like they're having to travel a long way after the international break. And I wouldn't really want to bench either Calafiori or Gabriel with the rest of the fixtures for my defenders. I have started Gvardiol. Now, he did get an assist and some bonus points in the last game week. He's not going to do that every game, but there is a possibility he does it against Everton. However, the ceiling is a lot lower, and I think the defensive contribution points just aren't there for Gvardiol. When I first got him in my wildcard a couple of weeks ago, he was someone that I would look at transferring out in the near future, and this could be the last game week that I have him in my team, just because it's either going to be a clean sheet or 2 points, right, for Gvardiol. And there's a chance of bonus if he gets a clean sheet, but I don't really see him doing too much against Everton. On the other hand, I'm also starting Tarkowski away at Man City. And you might think, why are you starting Tarkowski away at Man City? Well, I think they're going to get, or Tarkowski is going to get defensive contributions in this game. So his like baseline points is about 3 or 4. And, we all think we can predict what's going to happen. I think sometimes you also have to hedge your bets. And, we all think Man City are going to score against Everton. But what if they don't? What if Everton get a nil-nil draw? And then you're looking at Tarkowski with, pretty much guaranteed defensive contribution points, a clean sheet points, and probable bonus points to go with it. So I think the range of points for Tarkowski is a lot greater. You're looking at between, a 2 to 3 to 4, all the way up to potential 13, which probably won't happen, but there's a chance that it will. And that's led me to benching Senesi, just because I do see Palace scoring a bit like how I see Man City scoring. I don't see Palace attacking enough to sort of guarantee Senesi those defensive contribution points. Now, could totally swap him and Guardiol, could also swap a midfielder if I wanted to and put Senesi in, but that's just how I'm leaning towards the defence. It'd be interesting to hear what you think in terms of my bench as well and what you would do if you were in my situation. So into midfield, and I am starting Reinders. Not a huge fan of Reinders at the moment. His underlying data is not great, and he's basically just in the middle of the group in terms of expected goal contributions, and he's not getting those defensive contributions either. But at 5.8 million, there's no real need to transfer him out immediately, especially because I don't have a lot of money in the bank to upgrade. But then I also don't have to start him. So I think he's probably starting at the moment because of a bit of a fear factor in the fact that he's quite highly owned and has, the potential to get a couple of returns in a game. I don't necessarily see him doing this against Everton, even though Everton a little bit weaker without Jack Grealish, possibly are going to come and just defend and try and keep everyone to long shots. Grinder still has that scoring potential. I am now starting in Mbumo, someone who I did have on my bench in my thoughts earlier in the international break. I think Liverpool away is not the worst game in the world at the moment, given that they're a little bit wobbly in defence and they are conceding chances. And Bumo has got a really high expected goal involvement, and he is looking good when playing for Man United. And he's also a differential pick for me. He's 14% owned in the whole of FPL. I feel like players that are around my sort of rank inside the top 500k, even in the top 1 million, because the ranking's so close, don't really own Mbumo. So he is that player that could get me an edge if he returns. Elsewhere, I've gone for Semenyo and Kudus. I just think they're easy picks this game week if you have them in your squad. Semenyo, we talked about how he's not going to be a good captaincy option, but it doesn't mean he's not going to score on the break away at Crystal Palace. I just think Palace is a difficult place to go. And again, the ownership is so high, there's no need to risk it and get too clever by putting him on the bench. Now, I have benched Caicedo away at Nottingham Forest, and I just think midfielder defensive contributions are really hard to come by, even though Caicedo is getting them pretty much every game. Needing 12 is just a little bit more difficult, so that's why he's sort of third on my bench. I would quite like to start him, and I do feel that if I was to sort of go with four midfielders, sort of say, I would probably swap Reinders and Caicedo if I was a little bit braver. I am just thinking of leaning towards Reinders, and then there is still a chance that I just swap Reinders for Senesi, right? Because you might think, well, if you're going to put Caicedo in, why is he not first on your bench? And it's just because I think Senesi, if he did keep a clean sheet and did get defensive contributions, there's just a bigger way or more ways into getting more points for Senesi than there is Caicedo. But I still think Caicedo is a reasonable pick to start this week. So up front, of course, I'm captaining Haaland. There's absolutely no reason not to. And I'm starting João Pedro because I think Forest away is a good fixture. Now, João Pedro, there is a little bit of talk about potential injury, and that's why he didn't go on Brazil duty. I think he's good to start this game week. He'll have been rested for a reason, and it will just be because I think Brazil were only playing friendlies. So there's no need to sort of, if he's got a little bit of a tweak, in his hamstring or something, there's no need to fly halfway around the world to play two games and then come back again. Um, and Senesi, think could easily come in for João Pedro if needed. I have benched Evan Nielsen, and it kind of makes me think that why have I got Evan Nielsen in my team? He's not someone that I'm always convinced he's going to score. Like I look at his fixtures every week and think he's a really good player, and I like him enough to have got him in on a wild card. But if I was wild carding now, I probably wouldn't go for him just because he doesn't get the quantity of chances that I think other strikers do get. And at 7 mil, could I just go for someone a bit cheaper, have them third on my bench, and then use that money elsewhere if I'm looking at upgrading a Reinders. So again, I'll be interested to know what you think as to whether Evan Nielsen is a bit of a wasted pick in my team. So overall, the value is 101.7 million with zero point 0.3 in the bank. So having a team value of 102 million after game week 7 is really good for me. That's probably the highest team value I've ever had in FPL at this stage. So for what it's worth, that's good. But I also think team value isn't everything, and you shouldn't necessarily get players in to create team value. But when it happens, you're not going to say no, are you? I also have three free transfers. So I am planning on rolling a transfer this week. I've not mentioned that so far, but there's no real need for me to make a free transfer. But then next week, with four free transfers, there is the possibility that players like Vardiol, Reinders, and Evan Nielsen all come out. And that's something that I'm just going to have a look at and think of in the meantime. But if you do think of any free transfers that you think could help my team, feel free to leave them in the comments. So overall, the strengths are the Arsenal defence. I love having triple Arsenal defence. I've only benefited from it once, really, because I benched Gabriel for when he got that late goal against Newcastle. I just think if Arsenal do keep a clean sheet, it's just a really good foundation of points for my team. It's basically 20 points off the bat from three players. And even if they don't keep a clean sheet, because it only takes one goal to ruin it, there's not many clean sheets going around anyway. So it's not like everyone else will be getting clean sheets and I won't be. It's the fact that I could easily get a clean sheet just from three clean sheets from one game. I just really like. And then my team is quite popular. Like we say, it's gone up in value. It's quite highly owned across the board. And there are some players like Semenyo and Kudus that I've had from game week 1 that I think have gone up in value quite a lot. And that's really helped my overall team value. But the fact that they're highly owned just means that I'm not going to drop down ranks if they do well. So I think I've got a good balance of highly owned players and then some differentials like Mbumo, Gvardiol, and then the triple Arsenal defence in itself is a differential. So the weaknesses are, of course, benching headaches, umming and ahhing every week, and of course, there is the possibility that Senesi keeps a clean sheet away at Palace, gets his defensive contributions that we think Tarkowski might get, and ends up with 10 points plus for him instead, and that's sat on my bench. Of course, that can happen. The last two game weeks, I've had Caicedo with 10 points on my bench, and then Gabriel with 13 points on my bench, and that's just a risky run with having a stronger bench. There is, of course, the weakness being Evan Nielsen. So there's someone that I am looking at possibly transferring out if needed for some extra funds. But there is also the case where, if I sell Gvardiol, say, to a cheaper 4 million defender, I could then look at upgrading Evan Nielsen to a third striker and then possibly starting him over, my cheap defender and go for a three back, maybe a four back with three in midfield, and then my three forwards. So again, let me know what you think. Also, let me know if you've got any questions, you want any advice on. It's just great to talk FPL. Please do subscribe if you're new around here. Like the video. It's got a small channel trying to grow, and it really does make the difference. So yeah, thank you very much for listening. I'll see you in the next one.